On the hunt for comfortable, timeless Western boots? You already know the best place to shop for quality boots is at your local Tacova store. So stop by Tacova's Nashville, at the Mall at Green Hills, or on Broadway by Ryman Auditorium. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from. Grab a cold one as you shop and get fitted by a pro. Tacova's Nashville is at your service, and you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of their expert staff. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick new boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tacova's. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Nashville, we're kicking off Pride Festival weekend with Nashville Pride Board President Nick Gulick. Pride Month is well underway, and frankly, Pride is year-round. But this weekend, you have a ton of events to check out. On Saturday, you can head to Broadway and 8th at 10 a.m. to join in on the parade. And on Saturday and Sunday, you should check out Bicentennial for a ton of performances from drag shows to sets by LGBTQIA artists. We're going to learn a little bit about the history of Pride in Nashville and give you a preview of this weekend's festivities. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tacovas. It's June 20th, 2024. I'm Grace Fuse, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Okay, so we're going to start with the very, very basics. Can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, yeah. So my name is Nicholas Gulick. Call me Nick, and I am the current president of the board of Nashville Pride.
So how did you get into that? What were you doing before this?
I say this is the full-time job that I don't get paid for. We're an all-volunteer board. So my day job, I actually work in arts and culture, fundraising, development, and I'm a professional coach. Yeah, so a few years ago, I was volunteering with Pride, and someone who many in the community will know, Matt Huffington, who is our immediate past president, said, "Hey, Nick, would you be interested in doing more with the board?" And so we joke, I say, anytime you get annoyed with me, this is your fault. But yeah, so joined a few years ago, and, we just have a good time. It's a lot of fun.
So Nashville Pride has been around since 1988.
In our current form, yes, we've been around since 88. So we are coming up on our 36th festival, 36th year, I should say. However, we know that from the work of Nashville Queer History Project, that Pride celebrations have been going on in Nashville for well over 50 years. In fact, we know of some picnics that were held as a direct result of the Stonewall riots in Nashville. So Pride celebrations have been going on in Nashville in the region for much longer than this organization has existed.
And why don't we have Pride picnics now? Because that sounds really cute. Where's the picnic table?
You can have a picnic table at the festival if you would like.
I would like one. Yeah, if you could organize that, that'd be really cool. Can you tell me a little bit about how Pride has changed over the decades?
Yeah, well, certainly in size and scope. Well before my time, folks will tell you about festivals held at Centennial Park in the heart of Nashville. We were at Riverfront Park for a while, then downtown in Public Square, and now, of course, we are in Bicentennial Park. If you look at photos or hear stories from the early days, we're talking about less than 100 people, a few hundred people, to now, we're expecting 150,000 people this year, and we just continue to grow.
That's so much to handle as an organizer, but you guys are crushing it every single year. And so many people come to Pride from other states and from far away. What's the farthest you've heard of somebody traveling for Nashville Pride?
We are definitely a regional destination, but we also have a lot of friends who come from abroad, partly to celebrate Pride, but also because of Nashville. We are an international destination now, and we like to think, or I believe, that the festival enhances that, especially for queer folks who are, want to come into town and celebrate.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about finding joy and celebrating queer culture in a state where Republican leadership is actively antagonistic against it?
Oh, what is there not? I could go on and on about this. Yeah, no, this notion of queer joy right now is so, so important. What I see from the queer community, and not just the queer community, a lot of marginalized communities, is this notion of resilience, right? We are resilient folks. Queer people have always been here. We've always been in the state of Tennessee. We've always been in Nashville. We will always be here, contrary to what some folks might say. And I'll speak from my own experience. I do this work, yes, I'm the president of National Pride right now. Yes, I'm on the board, but I don't do this work for that. I do this for the community. I do this because I'm passionate about the work. I do this as a queer person who finds a lot of joy in the work that we do. And most folks know us because of the festival that we put on every year. And of course, it's big and it's fun, but we're doing work year round.
Yeah.
Pride is a year round celebration. It's not just a weekend party. But I'm curious. I want to ask you, what brings you joy about the festival? I'm always curious.
For me, it's always the performances because I just think it's so cool how there are so many queer artists that have ties to Nashville or live here. And I saw Julian Baker in 2017 and I will never forget, just in terms of seeing people who I love as artists and as queer artists and as Nashville queer artists. It's just a really cool intersection of a lot of things I love and care about. How does it feel to know that you provide this safe space for people who can't get that at home?
Oh, this is something that weighs on us. Speaking of joy, for someone who's never experienced that, I can't tell you how many times I meet someone or I've met people over the years who say, this is my first Pride, or this is the first time I felt like I could celebrate myself. And it's quite an emotional experience for me. I can't imagine, what that experience is for them. I remember my first Pride as a young queer person from, rural Tennessee, and being able to share that experience with folks, being able to provide that experience for folks is really meaningful for us. And we hope it's meaningful for the community. We're pretty sure that in the month of June, we are the second largest Pride festival in the Southeast. So, we have a lot of folks come from neighboring states, and being in Nashville, a lot of folks from rural Northern Alabama, Southern Kentucky, and certainly rural Tennessee. And to be able to provide those folks with that safe experience is so important. We have a lot of people come, and we know that we can't be all things for all people, and we try to touch on as many aspects as possible.
And you do a great job doing it.
Well, thank you.
To preview this year's festival a little bit, what performances are you most looking forward to?
So many. As you have probably seen, our two big headliners this year, Tinashe on Saturday and Billy Porter on Sunday. But we also have a myriad of other folks later, Icona Pop, G Flip, Shea Coulee. I am a big fan of Billy Porter, also Tinashe, but Sunday, for those of us who work the festival all week, that Sunday closer is like, oh, we've made it to the other side. So as soon as Billy Porter takes the stage, I will be probably in tears and celebrating. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Billy perform for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be so cool. I'm really excited. For folks who don't identify as LGBTQ, how can they attend Pride as a good ally?
First of all, we need our allies. And as I often say, even for someone like myself, queer person, that acronym you just used, LGBTQIA, is pretty broad. So, I am an ally to a lot of those letters as well. So that I start there. I'm an ally to, I'm a cisgender person. I'm an ally to trans folks. I'm a queer gay person. I'm an ally to bisexual folks and asexual folks and the whole spectrum. So I start there. I think it's about being yourself, being authentic, remembering that everyone has a sacred value, everyone has worth. It is a celebration of your like these people are your neighbors, right? They are your family, they are your friends, and really just celebrating those folks. I think that's what allyship is. It's about showing up. It's about knowing when you have power and when you don't, and how you use that. And in this context, with the festival, it's about celebrating just the beautiful, to be trite, the spectrum, the rainbow of folks that you see, being their authentic selves.
I will say, on the topic of neighbors, one of my favorite things about Pride Month is seeing how many of my neighbors put out their pride flag. There's something so welcoming about it, and I love it every year. On the topic of that acronym, just for listeners who might not be totally hip to the queer community, there have been a lot of acronyms for the LGBTQIA community over the years. Thoughts on which one we should be using or how to be respectful in our conversations about queerness?
I'll say, even for me, the acronym changes depending on the context, depending on the audience who I'm writing for, who I'm speaking to. Most of us know LGBT or GLBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. And as we know, gender and sexuality are a spectrum. And so over time, as we are acknowledging those folks and their stories and existences, we've expanded. At the end of the day, I think you ask. You ask, and you ask with a spirit of curiosity, not a spirit of judgment. I also just pick up on context clues. I use LGBTQIA plus a lot. However, I also speak to and work with a lot of Indigenous queer folks. And so sometimes I will switch to the acronym that includes Two Spirit. And even that, the order is different depending on who you're talking to. If we're in Canada, the order is different than if we're in the States, actually. So
Interesting. What?
yeah, it's not too different, but it flips slightly. Yeah. So while I think the labels are important, especially as we're talking about such a broad swath of people, I think it's also important to remember that we are talking about people. We are talking about human beings. So, really trying to honor and respect the humanity of all of those folks. I use the word queer quite a bit to reference that whole spectrum. And there again, there are some generational differences there are a lot of older generations are elders who do not like that term because it was weaponized against them.
Mhm.
So again, know who you're talking to, but that means you actually have to know them. You have to get to know them and understand their humanity.
As just another kind of topic of general respect in your communication with people, what would be like a cool, casual way to ask about pronouns or introduce that conversation?
Just that. Ask their pronouns. No, and I don't mean to be flip at all. We get really uncomfortable, right? Because it's not practiced a lot. We, unless you're in these circles, you're right. It's not something that we do a lot. I might walk up to you and say, "Hi, my name's Nick. Pronouns are he, him." Most folks might pick up on that and introduce themselves that way. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a group setting, when everyone's introducing themselves and the first few people go and then I go and I say my pronouns and everybody before me, "Oh yeah, I forgot to say my
Yeah.
pronouns." I think you model what you would like to see or hear and just ask. And some people don't want to use pronouns. And in fact, speaking of our Indigenous friends, there are a lot of global Indigenous communities who don't use pronouns because pronouns as we use them are colonial. And so some folks might prefer to just use their names, which is absolutely fine as well.
You said Pride is year-round. How can straight allies who come to the festival, all decked out to celebrate for one weekend, maintain their allyship and support in everyday life?
Yeah. So get to know the queer people in your community, get to know your neighbors. This is also an important election year. Get out and vote.
Mm.
Get out and vote. And what I will say as well, don't show up to vote just for the big elections. Show up for every election. Local elections, we know, matter more than the big federal elections. So vote. Get out and vote with your conscience. Get to know your legislators, get to know your lawmakers, get to know the topics and the issues. And I also say the queer community, the LGBT community is not monolithic, right? We're very intersectional. So we all don't agree on legislation or how to do things, or, sometimes we can't even agree on which flag to hang. And more important than anything, I think folks should just get out and vote. And again, get to know the people in your community.
Absolutely. Great advice. If you could have anyone perform at Pride next year, who would be your dream headliner?
Ah, oh, don't put me on the spot. Oh my goodness.
You can pick 3 or something if you want.
Well, if budget's allowed, we'd have Beyonce or
Yeah.
Kylie Minogue or Dolly. I mean, honestly, yeah. We are very fortunate to be in Nashville. We're very fortunate to be able to attract the talent that we do. I don't know that I have a great response for you. Like I said, Dolly.
Dolly would crush it.
Yeah.
Beyonce would crush it, obviously. I would love to see a Dolly Pride set. I would love to see it. The special guests I can imagine, Oh my gosh.
We're so close. So close.
So
if
close.
Only.
We'll start the GoFundMe. So just to wrap, thank you so much for your time. I'd love to hear as a final question what your perfect day would be at the festival, from the march to the headliner, just what your hot tips are for a perfect day at the festival.
Oh my goodness. A perfect day for me is everything goes on, everything happens, and folks feel safe and feel seen and heard. What I do tell folks is, our festival's in the summer. It's a summer in the South in the midst of global climate change. It's hot and it will continue to be hot. So make sure you're hydrating. We do have hydration stations all around. Sunblock is important. Wear a hat. Listen to your body. We have a lot of bars. We want you to have a good time and listen to your body. So, there are cooling stations, there are air conditioned tents, there are all sorts of ways to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. But at the end of the day, we want you to arrive safe and we want you to leave safely. And we mean that in all ways possible. And, it's icky. We don't like to talk about it. But if you see something, say something, find someone who looks official, who is official. But yeah, just come out, have a good time, enjoy yourself, introduce yourself to people, meet people. It's a great opportunity to network and get to know folks. You might meet a neighbor that you didn't know that you had. But yeah, just come out and have a good time.
Absolutely. And we will. Thank you so much for your time, Nick. We're really looking forward to this weekend. Happy Pride.
Yeah, thank you. Happy Pride.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye.